Hello, welcome to Never Heard It, the show where I review classic albums that I never got around to listening to. This week I brought along a friend. This is a special occasion because I used to do these videos by myself, and then in 2021 I started having people come on and talk with me about albums. And my guest today was my first guest, but he's also my first repeat guest on Never Heard It. He just released an album called Bowery Daydream that is available on all streaming platforms and Bandcamp. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your friend and mine, Luvjonez.
Thanks for having me. Honored to be the first repeat guest.
Last time we talked about America's Most Wanted, Ice Cube. This time we're taking it a few years later, and we're talking about 400 Degreez by Juvenile, released in 1998. First question I need to ask is, why is it you've never heard this album?
Oh man, there's a bunch of reasons. I think for a long time, I used to, like, this is definitely like I judged the book by the cover. Like, I hated the pen and pixel artwork. And where I live in Kentucky, all through the South, but like everyone would try to mimic that look. If you studied those covers, it was always so ridiculous, like king thrones and houses on fire. And I was just like, this is not what's in this album. I don't want to hear it. So like, there's part of that. And then I just, as that stuff took over, I don't know, I just wasn't into it. Like, there's songs that were good that came out of all those camps, but like, it never made me want to buy the CD.
Growing up in East Texas, right on the border of Louisiana, everybody has like cousins or friends or whatever that go away for the summer and come back and they bring these mixtapes and all this stuff. So I kind of grew up as a kid with bounce music just in general. I grew up on DJ Jimmy and DJ Jubilee and all that stuff. So hearing this was weird because I had never heard bounce music on the radio before.
Yeah, I think another part of it for me too is like I was such a big like Outkast, Goody Mob, Dungeon Family. I love 3 6 Mafia stuff because I grew up near there. Cash Money sound, that bounce New Orleans sound just never really caught me for more than a few songs at a time.
All right, so let's get into the album then. What were there any songs that stood out to you?
I mean, there's clearly the mega hits off this, which was Ha. Even the remix for Ha was a pretty big hit. Back That Ass Up is, or Back That Thing Up, according to the clean version.
Yeah.
But, I like went through the album. I think the ones that stood out for me, only because when I realized that like the production was different enough that they stood out from the other songs, was the title track, 400 Degreez. Was like different enough that I was like, oh, which one is it? Like, I almost thought someone else produced it.
That's one of my favorite songs, is the title track, 400 Degreez.
Yeah, there's 400 Degreez, and then what was the other one? I don't know that I would say I liked it, but it was another one that stood out because the production was so different. Was Juvenile on Fire. Was like not a great song, but I was like, it was a departure from the rest of the album, which sounded kind of similar.
Yeah, I think the biggest the biggest asset and detriment of this album is Mannie Fresh. Even though I love Mannie Fresh to death, it all does kind of sound the same. If there had been a little more diversity, I think it would have been better.
That's exactly. They almost sounded like he used the same presets for Ha and just changed out the words and the instruments on stuff. But like the drum patterns, a lot of the sounds were similar, the flows were similar. I was like, damn, I'm surprised that any of these popped out as hits at all.
Well, I mean, Ha is pretty different.
Yeah,
like, nothing sounds like Ha.
Right. But those kind of like, it's weird because it sounds like similar instruments on other songs.
Well, like, I mean, like lyrically, like his flow, like literally.
Oh, yeah, no, that was weird.
When I remember the first time I heard that, I was like, what is happening? Like, what is?
Yeah.
I think if I had just heard it and not seen the video I saw the video, that was the first time I had heard it. And if I had just heard it, I would have been like, what is this? I don't understand it. But like seeing it, even though I know people from New Orleans, I had never been there. And it's like seeing the projects and just, he's rapping in a puddle. If you watch the,
Yeah.
it's just like, you could like move like 3 feet over.
Yeah, I noticed that. Like when I
like,
went back and
wow.
watched it, I was like, it's literally like a 6-foot puddle, and everything
Yeah.
else is concrete. Why did you stand right there?
It's like, wow, like he's keeping it like real. That's 100%. But yeah, just that. And supposedly, like and Back That Thing Up were the last songs that he made for the album. Like he made them like a few days apart. But I think he said he was in Tennessee recording a lot of these. For I don't know why he was in Tennessee, but like he recorded some of them in the snow in Tennessee
Huh.
when it was snowing.
Which, yeah, that's rare too. It doesn't
Yeah,
snow that
and
much.
he said it was rare, which is weird. But yeah, those were the last 2 albums, last 2 songs.
Yeah, no, that's I mean, it's similar. Well, it's kind of reversed for me. Like I remember hearing it first and being like not confident that this was like, it almost felt like a novelty song. And even though I've heard it done well, like songs that end every verse in the same, or every line in the same word, after a while, it was just like, yeah, I don't know if this has like, if this artist has more in them. Like I wasn't sure. But then I remember seeing the video and being like, all right, at least the visuals explain a little bit more about the song. But when I remember first hearing it in a car driving by, and I was like, what is that?
Yeah, Hunt was actually it's actually a sequel to a song from his previous album, Soldier Rags. This is Juvenile's 3rd album overall, but this was the 2nd one for Cash Money, and he had a pretty big hit called Soldier Rags, and he just kind of like, and in my opinion, that song is actually better. If you've never heard it, Soldier Rags is actually better than Hunt, but it's just my opinion.
Yeah, it was funny to hear him take like a line. It reminded me of like I mean years later, but like the way that Mike Jones took his verse from Still Tippin' and turned that into a hit, and like you know, like taking your own lyrics and making them the hook of a song or something like.
Well, I mean, at the end of Hunt, he does the Run For It, and then Run For It is another song on the album. I don't know if that was on, I don't know if maybe he was referencing the song that he had already made, or I don't know, but still.
But speaking of that, he says that on like every song.
Run For It?
Yeah, he does. I noticed like there's these major themes of like head bussing.
Yeah.
Run For It.
If you listen to BG, he talks about head busting a lot. As far as the Hot Boys, like BG was always my favorite. I wish he hadn't got caught up in like all the extracurricular activity, because he definitely could have been like one of the bigger artists off that label. Have you ever heard like actual Lil Wayne rap, like when he was like 13 or whatever?
Yeah, it was interesting. Like I remember, because his album was like 400 or 700 degrees, or what was it, 500 degrees? He did some other album.
Yeah, but that was like years later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I remember, like, you know, people who call themselves Lil, I was always like, are they just short or are they like 12 years old? And I remember
he was both.
Yeah. But it was funny to hear him, because unless I misunderstood, he's like, he didn't curse.
Yeah, he didn't. His mom wouldn't let him curse on records until he turned 18, maybe.
Yeah, it was just funny to hear him, because I feel like, did I write down that he says that somewhere in the song, like,
yeah, lucky I don't curse, but I wet up his shirt.
Yeah, I was like, you don't curse, but you murder people.
Yeah.
Right. I was like, yeah, that's it just made me laugh, and his voice is so different from what it is now.
Yeah,
like I can still hear it and I still know it as Lil Wayne, but it's just, you know, I don't think the average fan would recognize those two voices in the 2 different eras.
I'm assuming you've heard Nas's King Disease 2. I'm pretty sure. Nas, at the very end of the song 40 Side, he starts singing Ghetto Children from 400 Degrees.
I did not put those together.
So go back and listen to King's Disease 2 on the song 40 Side. At the end of it, he starts singing Ghetto Children. And that blew my mind. When I first heard it, I was like, oh my God, he's singing Juvenile. I was like, oh my God. And that's an album cut. That wasn't a single.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, he was really
notes
listening.
On that song were like, I wrote like corny synth, repetitive music, and sounds like the Ha chorus.
Honestly, I like Ghetto Children. Ghetto Children is one of my favorite. Probably, yeah. There's probably like maybe like 3 or 4 songs that I really, really like, and that's one of them. But yeah, well, Nas liked it, so
yeah,
that's all that matters. The Jay-Z remix wasn't on the original like CD because I had bought the CD when it came out, and that wasn't on the original, and I got upset because like they re-released it after Jay-Z made his own remix. Like they didn't ask him to do that; he just did it and sent it to him, and I got mad until I like actually heard it. And I was like, oh, I'm glad I didn't hear this because it's not that good. But
yeah.
but I mean, he was definitely listening to Southern hip hop because that. In '99, he did Big Pimpin' with UGK, so he was definitely tapped in. So you talked a little bit about what you didn't like about the album. Was there anything that you did like about the
album? I mean, it like even this is more like as a whole piece. Just like the fact that people in New Orleans and like the southern regions that felt like definitely not a part of the larger hip hop landscape were making noise, and the same with No Limit. Like I didn't really like any of their records, but it was still cool to see like southern, like deep southern folks make it up to pop radio. So I mean, I don't completely hate on it too much because of that. I'm still like, I'm still kind of fond for the fact that other regions made it to the limelight as a relic of an era when that started to happen as a movement. That it's that part I liked about it. And even though I hated on the Pen and Pixel stuff, now I'm like, there's a sense of nostalgia for it because I can tell exactly what year these albums came out.
So as we're closing, is there anything that you want to plug?
I put out an album, like you mentioned at the top, Bowery Daydream. It's available on Bandcamp and all streaming platforms. Working on getting some additional media, maybe vinyl in the future, but for now, you can find it on all streaming platforms under Luvjonez.
All right. Well, thanks. To all the people out there, have you heard 400 Degreez? Are you still bumping it to this day? I'm going to keep talking about albums until I run out. Until then, we are 2 guys on the internet that don't know everything. Peace.